BK says, you have said with some clients you charge a percentage of each job for the leads that you provide. How do you handle that? What percentage of each job deal do you charge? And how do you verify the job amount to get paid? How do you set that up, word that in your contract? Well, I don't use contracts. We just, everything that I always have done. I mean, I've used contracts in the past, but I don't prefer to do that. It's month to month. It's always pay for performance, meaning if I'm doing my job, my clients, which would be like a retainer engagement, traditional retainer client, then they're going to want to keep paying me, right? But if I'm not doing my job and they want to cancel, then fine, let them cancel. I don't hold them in the contracts. And then likewise, I don't want to be stuck in a contract, because if I don't like working with the client, then I want to be able to walk away and not be held to, be sued for breach of contract, if that makes sense. So anyways, I don't use contracts, but with revenue share, which is what you're talking about, when I'm selling leads, instead of selling on a pay per lead basis, my preferred way to work with tree contractors is they only pay me for leads that they've closed, right? So in other words, if they sell a job, they sell a tree removal job or whatever, a tree service job, from the leads that I've sent to them, then I get 10% of that. Well, I've got a system using High Level. So I built an app in High Level that, I call it, it's a lead management app it's just a sub account that for each one of my lead buyers and I create a sub account in High Level, and it's got a 5-stage pipeline that I've created that manages all the leads. It's quote request, which is the, lead in stage of the pipeline. Then it's, quote scheduled, proposal pending, job scheduled, and job completed. So those are the 5 stages of the pipeline. And so any one of the revenue share tree contractors, I force upon them, like in order for us to enter that type of an engagement, right, which is where they're only paying me for leads that they've turned into jobs, they've turned into money. They have to subscribe to my Tree Care HQ app, is what I call it, which is my basically I set up a sub account for them in High Level, and I make them pay $100 a month to use the app. And then also because I run all of my calls through a call center, so an answering service. So that kind of helps to offset the cost of the answering services, right? Does that make sense? And that way, all of the leads that come in from my lead gen assets, they go there. There's an answering service. 90% of the leads that we generate are phone calls. We do get a couple of form fills, and even then it's a High Level form on my websites. So when a call comes in or a lead form is submitted from a customer looking for tree services, it gets piped into High Level, right? So the first place that lead goes, the lead details, is into High Level. And that then it sends a notification once I've got a Zapier Zap that pipes the data from Answer Connect, which is my answering service, or the High Level. It's a High Level form on my website. So either way, the customer's contact information and job details gets piped into the first stage in the pipeline. It's called an opportunity in High Level. And that's quote request. And when it goes into the quote request column in the pipeline, it automatically sends a notification to the contractor, a text message and an email, or one or the other, depending on what they want. But most of the time, it's both a text message and an email. So they get notified there's a quote. Then they open up the app on their phone, which is called the Lead Connector app. It's the High Level app. They open it up, and it's got all the lead details in there. And then they call the customer. They schedule the estimate to go out and provide an estimate. And when they do that, they move that to the estimate quote scheduled column, which is stage 2. Right. And that sends out notifications to the customer ahead of time. Well, immediately when the quote is scheduled, it sends them a notification the day and time that it's scheduled for. Then 24 hours ahead of time, it sends them another notification. And in 2 hours ahead of the scheduled estimate. And then once they do the proposal, it goes through like this 5-stage process that sends notifications, and it tracks all the leads, the lead data for me. Does that make sense? And there's even a value field where the contractor, once he goes out and estimates the job or provides an estimate to the customer, then he puts the value of that estimate into that opportunity card, the contact record, essentially. And that's how we keep track of everything. And then once the job's completed, it sends a review request out to the customer, and then it's in the column, the job completed column, which shows like that he owes me money essentially. And then once he pays me, which I generally meet with my contractors about, once every 2 weeks or once a month, depends on the contractor. And then they pay me for all the leads that they owe me for. And then I go back once I get paid and I confirm that I've been paid for them. I go back and update those leads in the high level app, showing with a tag that says paid Bradley. And that's how we do it. Before I had high level, I couldn't really do revenue share model in any way unless I had developed a really good trusting relationship with a previous pay per lead buyer. Like, in other words, that's how I learned this over the years because I had offered the revenue share model to multiple contractors that I got ripped off by. They were stealing from me, and they were closing jobs and then telling me they weren't closing jobs. And the way that I got around that many years ago was, at the time, the company that I used for answering, my answering service, they used to also do outbound calls. So I would use them, and you can hire a telemarketer from like Upwork to do this, but I would use them to contact the leads that my contractors were stating that they weren't closing, and we would disguise it as a customer satisfaction survey. And the telemarketer would call the customers that my contractors were saying they weren't closing the jobs from, and they'd say, "Hey, this is from Bradley's Tree Service. We're just calling to find out, it's a customer satisfaction survey to find out, what it was, what could we have done different to have earned the business since you turned down the job." And then sometimes the customer would say, "Well, wait a minute, you said Bradley's Tree Service? Well, we did hire you guys. You guys came out and did the job for us earlier this week or last week or whatever." And then, so I would get notification from them stating that, like, okay, these are the leads, that these are the ones that said the jobs were completed. And then I would call a contractor and be like, "Hey, just following up on this, customer and this address. Did you get a job there or no?" "No, I didn't get a job there." "Oh yeah, well, you're fucking fired." Like, no kidding. And I went through that multiple times. And finally I said, I'm not going to do it anymore, until I built a really good relationship with a contractor. Well, how do you do that? Well, on the pay per lead model, which is where they pay, per phone call or per form fill. If we started, like, for example, my newest revenue share model tree contractor, which we switched over from pay per lead to revenue share about 2 months ago. And he had been buying leads from me on a pay per lead basis for about a year. And, but he always paid on time. We had good communication. So he called me about 2 months ago to ask me if I could work on building up his own presence in Google for his tree contracting company. And I said, well, listen, I quoted him the price, and he's like, I could hear him like grunt. So I said, "Hey, listen, we've been working together on paper leads for about a year. Let's meet. I've got a proposal for you." And so we met. He's a local guy, so we ended up meeting. And I pitched to him like, "Hey, look, I'll do lead gen for you, and all you got to do is pay for the pay 10%." And that was the other question you asked. It's 10% for tree contractors. So anyways, but you have to have some sort of system in place to be able to manage or track all that and to confirm and validate that. The app does that for me now, if that makes sense. Before the app, like I said, the only way that I was able to do it without getting taken was to wait until I had established a good working relationship, a trusting relationship with a contractor that over many months of them paying on the pay per lead basis, and then having good communication, always paying on time, no issues, no problems. Then I could offer that to them as an alternative. For tree contractors, I do 10% of whatever the job price is. I've done this with other industries. Like, I did it for a home remodeling company for a while. They did mostly kitchen remodels. And I got 5% of their profit margin on those jobs. So you structure the deal in a way that's reasonable, that makes sense for everybody. For tree contractors, it's mostly all labor costs. So I'm able to get 10% of the job, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, if you can't have a way of validating that, then don't do it. Because otherwise there's a lot of scumbags. I always thought it was crazy. Like, why would you kill the goose that lays the golden egg? Right. And that's how I always thought about it, was if I'm sending leads to a tree contractor and they're not paying for any of those leads, except for the ones that they made money from, why the hell would they lie to me about closing jobs so that they don't get any more leads when I find out? You know what I mean? And I had that happen multiple times. So, like I said, even with my app, I don't come out of the gate with that offer. I wait, like, even when I'm pitching for a retainer client, to sell them Google Business SEO services to work on their assets. If during the discovery call or the conversation, the communication that we're having, we find out that it's just not a good fit for them, it's not in their budget right now, then I will often offer to them, okay, well, look, here's an alternative strategy. I can do leads and you can pay me per lead. And then, like I said, once we've established a relationship and there's some trust there, then I can always offer them the revenue share model at a later time. That makes sense. That was a good question as well.